Hello, and welcome to No Preparation, an incredibly original sports podcast. I'm your host, Ian. With me, as always, that didn't make much sense, but with me are Carter and Emmanuel. And, boys, this week, I don't really want to talk about the Ravens, so I'm going to let Carter go first. Talk about the Packers.
Sure. This is the best time in the season to be a Packers fan. We pretty much have the playoffs aren't clinched, and obviously you're still trying to play for the 1 seed, but you pretty much know you're going to the playoffs, and we have a couple regular season weeks left to just enjoy before things get stressful. And for the last couple of years, when the Bears-Packers primetime games comes around, it's always a good time. When they came out and immediately, mocked the belt, we already knew, okay, we're going to win the game. So that's good. And then our special teams just played like the worst game I've ever seen from a special teams in NFL history. I remember the very first punt, Amari Rodgers was backed up on our goal line. I was already, I said out loud in our watch party, I'm already scared about this special teams play. Ended up just going out of the back of the end zone, so it was fine. And then, the next 5 special teams plays were all a disaster in, some different way. They had, 2 punt returns for 50-plus yards. One went for a touchdown, I think. But we get to halftime. Also, shout out Rasul Douglas for the pick 6. He's been a baller for us. We get to halftime. We come out of the half, and the quote from Matt Nagy is that he was having fun, which I already thought it was funny, but then for the rest of the game, it's just shots of Matt Nagy looking absolutely miserable with the little graphic at the bottom is having fun or something like that. It was incredible. But so I was enjoying the game ironically at this point, but then of course we ended up winning by 14 points, so I ended up enjoying it unironically as well. And Al and Chris pretty much just talked about Aaron Rodgers and owning the Bears for the entire 3 hours that was that game. Even though parts of the game were close, they just kept going about it. It was a very entertaining game. Shout out to the Chicago Bears for keeping me happy.
The first half of that game was one of the most entertaining games I've ever watched. And the second half was one of the most, I guess, I'm not going to say boring because it was entertaining in a sadistic kind of way, but
right.
It was not. The first half was incredibly entertaining.
Well, the second quarter had 5 touchdowns of 50 yards or something like that.
But there's also nothing more entertaining than seeing a fan base complain about something and then see that thing repeatedly happen over and over again.
It is a disease, our special teams, and getting more serious about looking forward. It's definitely worrying. I'd like to think that Mason's going to get his swagger back just because he's been so clutch for us in the playoffs over the years. And he's had so many game winners or game tires. So I'm not terribly worried about Mason Crosby, but muffed punts, kick return fumbles, opposing team return touchdowns are all on the table to just completely flip a playoff game, which is terrifying. And that combined with the fact that we're letting up huge plays all of a sudden, all the time. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, we were one of the best teams at not allowing explosive plays, which I think is 20 yards or more. And since then, we played Justin Jefferson, who had several in the one game. We played the Rams with OBJ and Van Jefferson going off. And then it happened several times in a single quarter last night or Monday night, or Sunday night. So those two things are very worrying when you go into the playoffs, because you're never gonna have a sure lead. At any moment it could just be 7 going the other way, and all of a sudden the game's close again or they're ahead. So once the playoffs come around, it's going to be a little stressful. We also lost Billy Turner. I haven't heard if he's going to be okay or not. Hopefully he is, because that's a huge loss, especially without having Elkin Jenkins to replace him. So That stinks. But we do have Dennis Kelly, who is like, he looks like Diet Bakhtiari, so we'll have a Bakhtiari on both tackles, which is kind of funny. Yeah, it was a mixed bag, but it was a very entertaining game, and I'm excited to enjoy the last couple regular season games before things get stressful.
How does it feel knowing you're going to be 10-4 after this week?
I don't really see a world where that happens. Maybe the Ravens get another stupid win. It is in Baltimore, so I guess that you have that going for you. But man, it would feel bad to lose to that team after what they've done the last 2 weeks.
Oh, they should have won the last 2 weeks. So I'm saying. I'm not going to talk about the Ravens this week because no one wants to hear about that. Their offense is a mess. Their offense is a mess. They still should have won the last 2 games. Like, this should be me going, oh man, this team's a mess, but they're 10-3. But no, because they couldn't get the 2-point conversion, and then they couldn't get a 2-point conversion this week, and then got an onside kick, and then still couldn't score. The Brown, if the Browns somehow fall backwards into the division, it would be incredibly funny because I don't think they could win a playoff game. Like, the only way... I think they could win this division because the division is just, like, falling apart at the seams. But it would be, like, a free win for any of those wildcard teams. Like, unless Myles Garrett has the game of his life in the playoffs, I don't know. Or they're playing the Bengals in the playoffs or something. Like, that would be the only scenario. So I don't know.
That is a good point.
I was looking at... Because now they're only a game back, and they'll have the tiebreaker against Baltimore... And they play Cincinnati week 18. So theoretically, they need to win like 2 games. And hopefully they could probably win the division. But
Raiders game is definitely winnable this weekend.
Hope the Raiders win.
Unless COVID continues to strike them down.
The funniest outcome now for the 3rd straight week is the Bengals losing, the Browns losing, and the Ravens losing. And just still in first place.
Throwing a Steelers win.
Still in first place.
Yeah, man. The Browns, getting these wins and whatever, but like the Browns haven't played well since like the Bengals game where they, for whatever reason, the Bengals looked like absolute trash that day.
The Browns scored 17 offensive points and they won. So, I mean, it is what it is. Raven should have won that game, but they didn't. So, cool.
Should have won last week too.
Yeah, but last week at least was like they didn't execute the 2-point conversion and they blew the lead. And like this week they just, were the better team in the second half. That they just didn't score enough points to make up for the fact that they went down 24-3. They just lose like a normal team. Like, just lose 24-10. Why did they have to lose 24-22 while also getting the onside kick? Why do that? Like, why do that? Just don't get the onside kick. Just don't get the onside kick and lose. And it's like, oh, man.
3 or 4 onside kicks this week that were successful.
4.
4.
All 4 teams lost. Granted, the Bears were down 2 scores when they got theirs, but...
Time to implement the 4th and 25 play or whatever they were considering a few years back. No more onsides.
Do you know Matt Prater's now had 5 of his 13 onside kicks recovered?
That's insane.
It was
an insane stat.
It was insane last night because they showed the stat. It was like 4 of his 12 onside kicks have been recovered. I was like, 25% is pretty good. And then they recovered that one, too. It was like, what?
That has to be like among the highest percentage.
It's insane. Justin Tucker had never had one before yesterday. And that was because he kicked it directly off a guy's face.
I wonder what Youngways is at, because I know he's had a couple, and he hasn't been in the league that long. He also had like 3 in a row that like got called back, but all of them were recovered.
Dude, the Ravens onside kick was hilarious because the dude just stood there.
He went to block.
I don't think he was ready.
He went to block. He's clearly the guy who's on the hands team to block. He was there, no way. He was going to set the block on the Ravens player and then just let the receiver recover it. But it hit him in the face and bounced right to Chuck Clark. Like, oh, man. I also think they need to change the rule. You should be able to recover an onside kick for a touchdown. Like, when is that going to happen? I've never seen that before for the offense. I've seen it. I've seen the defense recover one for a touchdown. That happens every once in a while. The Bears game was the first time I've ever seen a player on the offense recover an onside kick and score. Like, just why is that a rule? Just let it happen.
That would have been incredible.
Like, I don't understand.
Sure. Especially because it was already the worst special teams performance that I've ever seen, but that doesn't include the fact that the onside technically got returned for a touchdown, and also Amari Rodgers muffed a punt that like didn't count because the gunner ran out of bounds. Like, oh man.
Which it's kind of a judgment call because they said he didn't try to come back. He tried to come back in, but they still called it. Like, no.
They also, Bears Twitter was mad about this. It's actually a very funny clip. One of the earlier punts in the game, one of the gunners for the Packers just ran out of bounds, and he's just like running through the side. He doesn't even, like this one does not at all. He doesn't at all attempt to come back in. He's just like running down the sideline. It's very, very funny.
So good. Oh my god.
Anything you want to talk about with the Jets here, Emmanuel?
Well, speaking of losing like a regular team, playoffs? You talking about playoffs? 11 years, guys, and counting. We're on our way. It was a rough week, man. There really wasn't many positives to take from this week. The offense looked terrible. The defense looked okay, but we were also playing a quarterback with 4 fingers on his throwing hand. And they basically just ran all over us with Alvin Kamara. Like, Taysom didn't even run that well until the last play where everyone just assumed, I'm guessing everyone just assumed he was going to run up the middle to run up the clock. Because basically our safeties just decided to let him go. And then our free safety was like, oh, wait, there's no one else back there. He's just going to go into the end zone.
Chuck Clark?
It's just ridiculous. Even Kamara after the game, they asked Kamara about it. He was like, "Yeah, man, he should have sat his ass down. I don't know what he was doing." It was ridiculous. Zach looked terrible. It was one of his worst games of the season.
Yeah.
I think his completion percentage was under 50%. He wasn't even making easy throws.
Good defense, but man, it's getting late early here for Zach Wilson.
It was just terrible. He was missing his 2 receivers and everything, but that doesn't really matter at this point. It's just really nothing to take from it. I guess the only positives were our kickers looked better. Like, we signed some dude that hasn't played since 2019 to be our kicker, and he went 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Whoopee. And then our punter, who I basically assumed he came back too early because he was hurt. He had a big injury early in the season because he had been terrible since he's been back. But this week, he boomed them. He was kicking like 60-yarders, and I was like, all right, the punter's back. Those are the positives from Jetsland.
So,
Texans play the Jags next week. One of them's got to win. So
yeah. I think they both have 2 wins, right?
Yeah.
So that actually benefits the Jets no matter what. But I think you want the Texans to win, because you might be able to win a tiebreaker with the Jags. You're not going to win a tiebreaker with the Texans.
Here's the issue if the Jags win, though. We play them next week. And as bad as we are, the Jags are terrible, so we probably win that game.
You want the Texans to win this week, and then you lose to the Jags, and then you're basically guaranteed the number 2 pick.
That would be perfect. Let me just call up Urban right now. Oh, wait, I don't need to because he's an absolute disaster.
God, they need to fire him, right? Like, at the end of the season, he needs to go.
I don't think I've ever seen stories like this. Like, I've seen a lot of stories about players and coaches, but nothing like as consistent that is a sign that someone is bad at their job.
I just like that it was like, oh my God, Urban Meyer is such a terrible coach, and then he's doing the thing within his restaurant in Columbus, and then the John Gruden stuff broke, and it was like, oh, okay, Urban is fine now. No one's talking about Urban Meyer anymore, and he's like, no, I want everyone to talk about me. In fact, I'm going to leak stuff about myself to the media.
The interesting thing to me was that, this was the first year I've ever paid attention really closely to college because of, where the picks thing and everything together. But you correct me if I'm wrong, because you keep up with college for years now. This is pretty much who he was in college. He was a ton of scandals and there was a ton of stuff that came out. Just the difference was he won, so they didn't care.
Yeah, it wasn't like this bad. I mean, the the bar and grill thing, independent, because that was his own thing. But like the difference, I have a kind of a, not a word for this, but I've seen it happen enough at this point where like there's a type of guy that's a very much a college coach and does not translate well to the NFL. And I think Urban is that type of person. I think Dabo Sweeney would be that type of person if he ever decided to coach in the NFL. It's just like the guy that's like I'm the boss. I'm in power. And you can do that when you're dealing with a bunch of 18-year-olds, a bunch of 19-year-olds, a bunch of kids. You can do your like my word is final. I have all of the control. You must listen to me thing. You can't do that with a bunch of grown men. It just doesn't work. I'm sure there's some coaches that lean more towards the disciplinary side, like Belichick. Like you can make it work, but you can't do it like this. Like it doesn't translate to professional football because these guys are getting paid millions of dollars. They have families. They're grown men, and they're like a lot of them are in their 30s. Like you can't do this. And so I think that's what's happening is he tried to institute his like college coaching regime basically, and the fire and brimstone isn't working with like these actual NFL players.
Yeah, it's very different with like adult men, I guess.
Unless you're coaching at BYU, which everyone is 27. Let's just run through the rest of the week real quick. A couple sentences on each of the games. Actually, a couple more sentences on this game because Pittsburgh, Minnesota was one of the funniest games I've ever watched in my entire life.
It was insane.
The
Very Minnesota game.
There have been, I'm trying to remember the exact stat because it was last week. There have been like, it was either 1,100 or 1,600. It was in the thousands of teams in the NFL history since they started keeping track of this that have gone down by 29 points in a game, in a regular season game. Only one has ever gotten to the point where they had a chance to tie or take the lead on the final play of the game. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday night. That's how rare that was.
So bad. Like, terrible football. And then, like, I don't even understand how that happens.
I don't know.
Mike
dude.
Tomlin started
The
playing
Vikings,
music.
like, I guess maybe.
The first half was just. The first half looked like they did not. Like they basically slept through it. Like that, Dalvin Cook had holes to run through that were like the size of a New York City block. Like nobody was touching him. He had like 3 of his first 10 carries or something went for like 25 yards. It was ridiculous.
It's the first time I've ever watched the Steelers publicly embarrassed on national television and been upset because I'm like, oh cool. So we couldn't have done this last week. We couldn't have just blown the doors off of them. Cool, good, thanks.
Where was this Steelers team last week?
It's every time those two teams play, it doesn't make any sense. Like to talk about the Jets again real quick. Sorry, talk about the Jets again real quick. I was like, oh my god, how have they not made the playoffs for 11 years? It doesn't make any sense. And my dad, who was a Jets fan, was reminded me of the 2015 season where the Jets went 10-6 with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yes, sir.
And the Ravens basically handed the Jets a playoff appearance on a silver platter because they beat the Steelers twice. The Ravens went 5-11 in 2015, and 2 of those 5 wins were against the Steelers, a team that made the playoffs. But they only made the playoffs because Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 4 interceptions against the Buffalo Bills in Week 17.
This is back when the Bills still were bad. By the way,
when the Bills were bad. I don't even know who their quarterback was. It
was probably like Peterman or something.
Peterman or I don't even Tyrod.
Tyrod?
They probably was Tyrod.
That was the Ryan Fitzpatrick, Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker team that he just lobbed it up to those 2 guys every play.
Man. Anyway, the Vikings are. I really, really, really hope the Vikings make the playoffs because it would be the funniest game of all time. I already know that. It would be incredible.
I was so ready for that comeback to happen, so I could just laugh at Minnesota.
Dude, it was a mess, man. Like I don't it was the most Minnesota thing ever. Like at halftime, I was like, okay, what's gonna happen to make this a very Minnesota game? Is Kirk gonna turn the ball over 2 times? Yes,
He did.
Kirk.
I want like the Colts and I mean, that would have to be the Super Bowl, so it's not going to happen, but Colts Vikings would be an incredibly funny game. Just Carson Wentz and Kirk Cousins competing to who can turn the ball over more damagingly to their team while they have all-time, like, all-pro running backs. Okay.
Pre Justin Jefferson.
Titans, Jags. The Jags are bad.
Terrible.
Yes.
Very, very, very bad.
I mean, you can't even name half the starters on the Titans, and they still put up 20 points on them.
I'm worried about Trevor, but we've discussed that before. I think you need to get him free from Urban's clutches before we actually get worried about him, but he's just looked bad all season.
The 4 interceptions were rough. I mean, one of them hit a guy right in the hand, so you don't blame him for that one, but the others were rough.
The Las Vegas Raiders decided they were going to have a party at midfield before the game, and then they lost 48-9.
Why?
That is something.
I would like an interview with Yannick Ngakoue for him to explain to me what was the decision-making process of taking the team to the logo to jump on it.
It goes one of two ways. Either it hypes your team up and you play mean and you win, or this happens. I mean,
literally their first offensive snap, Jacobs fumbles the ball.
I remember the great, and by great I mean I very, very much dislike him, Mike Vrabel. They did this to the Ravens, and then John Harbaugh complained about it, and Mike Vrabel was, well, then just stop it. And then they beat them in the playoffs, and they danced on their logo.
I do remember that.
And so I like to think that Ngakoue's argument was like, well, just stop it, and then they fucking beat him by 40.
The big Marcus Peters interception jump on the logo game.
Yes.
I remember, yes.
Lamar's only playoff win. The only playoff win the franchise has had since 2014.
Oh.
But I don't want to talk about that. Where are we? Oh, we talked about the Jets. Dallas kind of blew the doors off of Washington until they didn't. That game was really weird as well. So many teams like almost blew leads but didn't this week.
Yeah, there were like 3 or 4 games that should have been blowouts and let teams back in.
Quarterbacks just be throwing interceptions like in the fourth quarter with the lead. Like, just don't throw like sussy balls. I don't understand.
That sounded like it should have been on a meme template. Quarterbacks just be throwing interceptions in the fourth quarter with a lead.
I don't know, man. I'm concerned about Dak as the resident Dak manager in my fantasy league. He looked rough, dude. And then those 2 interceptions, it felt like he just didn't see the guy. Like he threw one of them right to the guy.
He's definitely been off, but I like Dak as a person, so I hope that he's good. I don't know.
I don't know if we learned a lot about. I felt like we were learning a lot about those teams because I felt like Dallas had fixed their offense and Washington was showing that they weren't a real contender. But that game was a lot closer than we thought it was going to be. So
Dallas defense is just feisty.
Yeah, that's the more concerning thing I think for the other NFC teams and also Washington, who has to play Dallas again, is like Micah Parsons was just destroying Taylor Heineke that entire game.
It felt like he was in the backfield every play.
There was like random dudes making plays too. That one defensive lineman just put his hand up and like somehow found the ball after he tipped it.
I think that was Randy Gregory, I believe, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I think Dallas is, pretty much they're going to win that division now. It was getting a little questionable there for a minute, but I don't know when they can clinch, but it has to be soon because everybody else is under 500. Might be this week. It might be if they win this week and Washington and Philly lose, they might clinch because they're 9-4 and everybody else is 6-7. I think. Either way,
might be next week because they play each other.
I think
this week.
Well, 2 wins and they've clinched probably. I believe the Cam Newton experiment is over. Well, not over, but they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever really an experiment anyway. It's more of just come fill the hole since Darnold's injured.
But he's back.
But he did not do good this weekend and has not looked good at all since
it made for a great 1 week story. Got the meme and everything and the gif out of it.
I'm back. You know who else is back?
Oh no.
The Atlanta Falcons.
Why?
Because they're back in the playoff race. They're 6-7. They're tied for the 7th seed. If they win, they play the 49ers this week. If they win this week, they're in the playoffs.
Thought we buried this team last
Matt
week.
Ryan.
They have the Lions still too.
Looking at their schedule, I think this team finishes 8-9, which probably isn't good enough to get in the playoffs in the NFC. But I don't know. I don't really know at this point. But I feel like they beat the Lions and they beat the Saints, and then they lose to the Bills and the 49ers because that's their entire. I talked about this last week. They basically just beat bad teams and they lose to good teams.
The Falcons are what you think Matthew Stafford is.
You know what? Well, you know what hurts them a lot. Looking at they lost to Washington and they lost to the Eagles, so they're gonna have a tough time.
That is tough.
Those are those 2 tiebreakers, so they probably won't make the playoffs. But they'll be alive and it'll be fun to act like the Falcons might make the playoffs. We see Cordell Patterson play against a good team. Sorry. That 2 seed, obviously having the bye is the most important thing, but I feel like the difference between the 2 seed and the 3 seed in the NFC is going to be massive. Because you're either going to play a team that's under 500 more or less, or you're going to play I guess the 49ers, so it's not that big of a difference.
That's the 4 seed that is rough because it'll be Arizona or
Rams,
which you don't want.
Yeah, so I guess it's getting one of those top 3 seeds is going to be the biggest thing for the NFC. Seattle kept themselves alive for the playoffs by beating a very, very bad Houston team, but Davis Mills did score 20 points in fantasy for me to help me win, so that was nice.
Huge.
Giants are bad, but a really weird... I skipped one of the games, we'll get back to that. The Giants are a really weird kind of bad where it feels like they shouldn't be that bad, but they're bad. I don't know how to describe that.
It's tough when you got, Mike Glennon starting.
And Mike Glennon had a decent day. He had a rushing touchdown.
Shout out to the Chargers for just doing their job and winning that game.
Did you see the rushing touchdown? He runs in and 3 yards before he crosses the goal line, he's already slowing down and bracing for the hit. He's like, "Oh God, I'm gonna get a hit." No one hit him. No one hit him.
Shout out to Mike. Mike and his giant helmet.
And his long neck.
Chargers look good. Chargers look good against a bad team. I mean, nothing new there. Herbert had one of the most ludicrous throws I've ever seen in the history of the NFL.
He's going crazy out there.
Just yeeted that ball. They need to win this Thursday, or they're going to be the wild card team. I don't think they're going to win this Thursday, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
It's gonna be tough because they already beat them once this season.
But after they beat after getting that win over the Bengals, it solidifies a pretty solid tiebreaker there. As long as they beat the Texans and the Broncos, after they lose to the Chiefs this week, they'll be fine. And they'll actually probably be going to the AFC North champion for their first playoff game. That's a winnable game. Doesn't matter who that team is, it's a winnable game.
Good point.
So they're in pretty good shape as long as they don't Charger. I almost said Raider. Well, as long as they don't Charger.
Regardless of whether the Broncos are going to be in the playoffs, every game they have for the rest of the season is a playoff decider game because they play the Chargers and the Chiefs. So I feel like all the Broncos games for the rest of the season are going to be interesting games.
Yeah, and the Broncos kind of just took care of business this week against the Lions, who were missing like half their team to COVID. And yeah, I need the Broncos to come through this week. Yet again, need the Bengals to lose. So,
big respect to Demaryius Thomas
yeah,
from the Broncos this week.
One of the greatest touchdowns of all time from Tim Tebow.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I just realized that they lost to the Browns. Damn. What are you doing, Denver?
That was the Case Keenum game, too.
Yeah, thanks for nothing, Teddy.
He covered.
He did cover.
He did.
The best game of the week, in my opinion, was 49ers Bengals.
Yes.
And
Indeed fun.
I've never been wrong about any game involving an AFC North team, because when it was 20-6, or it was 17-6, and Brandon Ayuk looked like he caught a touchdown in the end zone, but he was out of bounds, and they kicked a field goal. And as soon as that happened, I went, okay, cool, they're gonna get a dumb Jamar Chase touchdown, and then they're gonna tie the game. And and it was like, what did they do? They got a dumb Jamar Chase touchdown, and they tied the game. Luckily, they lost. But that's maybe the first time I've ever seen somebody score in overtime and lose. I feel like it very rarely happens. Usually it's like a tie, maybe, but
that was a wild 4 o'clock segment with those 2 overtime games.
And the other one was Bucks Bills, which looked like the Bills were done. We could write them off. They're boomed, and then they came back and looked pretty good in the second half. So, there's that, I guess. Still lost though.
Josh Allen ridiculously trying to carry his team to a victory with like 100 and
Insane
whatever running,
stuff
and then
from Josh Allen.
like 400 yards passing.
There are too many AFC teams that are in contention for a playoff spot. I'm going to pull that up right now.
There are.
When they show the in the hunt graphic during the games, it's the funniest thing ever.
There's too many teams.
Just keeps going.
So now it used to be that all the division leaders had the same amount of wins, and they no longer do, thanks to the Baltimore Ravens. But the wild card teams right now, the Chargers, a commanding lead at 8-5. And then the Colts are 7-6, the Bills are 7-6, the Browns are 7-6, the Bengals are 7-6, the Broncos are 7-6, the Steelers are 6-1, and then the Raiders and the Dolphins are 6-7. Shout out to the Dolphins for realistically being a game out of the playoffs right now.
Ow.
I don't know, they learned how to blitz. So all
you can thank Greg Roman.
all 13, the Browns and the Steelers can thank Greg Roman for the fact they're still in the playoff race as well. There are 13 teams that are within a game of the playoffs or in the playoffs at the moment. So
Dolphins also play the Jets and the Saints.
God, I think 10 wins is what you're gonna need though. That's the thing about the Dolphins.
Good against the Patriots, so there could be a weird win. I don't know.
Is that game in Miami?
That's in Miami, yes.
Because that was kind of a Tom thing though. But Patriots always play like really poorly in Miami for whatever reason. So I think we're at the point now where you're gonna need, barring like a really stupid end of the season, which is up for grabs at the moment, you're gonna need at least 9 wins and a favorable tiebreaker, but you're probably going to need 10 wins to make the playoffs in the AFC. So that means that if the Raiders or the Dolphins lose this week, they're done. And if any of the 7-6 teams lose this week, they're on the precipice of being eliminated theoretically. But again, if everybody loses again, then maybe that number moves up to you only need 9 wins.
I'm really hoping the entire AFC is just sitting at 8-8 going into the final week. Like the Chargers lose this week, so they'll still be at 8 wins. Maybe a couple other teams win and get to 8, but then like everyone's still at 7, and then those teams lose again. Everybody's at 8-8 going into the last week. That would just be wild.
I just hope that the Ravens make the playoffs. I don't care. That's why if everybody wants to keep losing, I have a very stressful week this week, where Thursday night I need to root for the Chiefs, and then Saturday I need to root for both the Raiders and the Patriots to win. And if all of those things happen, then we'll have a chance here where if they can beat the Packers and the Bengals also lose, then suddenly we're looking good. So I only need 4 teams to lose and to beat the number 1 seed in the NFC, and it'll be fine. Things will be fine.
You might as well just go out to Vegas and put like a 16 parlay on this, man.
No, because then I lose money and my sanity.
Yeah, man.
It just sucks that I have to, like, it was nice for a couple weeks that I was like, okay, I only have to root against the Bengals. Everything else is like, house money, but as long as the Bengals lose, we're fine. But not because the Browns are 7-6, I have to root against the Browns and the Bengals. Anyway, I'm not sane anymore at this point in the season.
On the bright side, the Bengals are underdogs and the Browns are only favored by 3.
Well, we gotta hope Derek Carr has a good game, and then I think the Broncos can win that game. It's just gonna be tough, but
that should be a good game.
it actually should be a good game.
I wish they would flex that to Sunday night. Because I don't want to watch the fucking Bucks Saints, but I guess.
Unfortunately, if they did flex that, what would happen would be last time Teddy was on Sunday night, which he was terrible. He did nothing.
They're having issues with the flexing, I think, because of the number of times other teams have played, and because like I mean, maybe not now. You don't flex Packers Ravens the Sunday night because the Ravens look terrible, but like even if they had wanted to, they couldn't have because the Packers played this week. And so they're kind of running into this weird situation where like the teams that are in good games can't be flexed because they've already played on Sunday night a bunch of times, or there's like there's only 2 games and then CBS and Fox are protecting them. Anyway, our last game this week, Cardinals Rams. The Rams sneaking out a 7-point win despite the play of their quarterback.
Our favorite weekly
high quality game from Aaron Donald. I'm still like not annoyed because I don't care that much about these 2 teams, but like, how did Kyler not tell his linemen that they were not spiking the ball?
Yeah, I didn't get what was going on.
Or why didn't they just spike the ball?
They should have just spiked it.
Like, I
think everyone assumed they were going to spike it.
Well,
was he the only one that didn't?
What he should have done, as soon as he sees Von Miller running unblocked at him, was throw the ball into the ground. Like, he's like, oh, I'm gonna sneak. Oh, now there's 2 guys unblocked, and now I've been sacked, and the game is over. Like, it made me very angry, just from like a neutral fan perspective of like ruining the end of the game like that.
See a real world where the Rams take over that spot in the West.
It's not
possible.
It's not impossible. I was looking at it last night. I mean, they have no gimme games left because the divisional games are always, tough, even if the Seahawks have looked bad.
That Seahawks game could be weird for sure.
Because Seahawks Rams every year for eternity, even when the Rams were bad and the Seahawks were good, was a stupid game.
Yeah. And
then, Sean McVay can't beat the baby genius, so they're going to lose in week 18. And then, at Vikings and at Ravens those are like, if I had to play 2 teams in a stretch run for the playoffs, those are 2 of the, and like, not like good teams, right? I wouldn't want to see the Bucks. I wouldn't want to see the Packers. I wouldn't want to see, the Chiefs right now. But those 2 teams are going to give you really stupid games.
Yeah.
You might win them. You might not. I don't know. Oh my goodness. I'm kind of betting on the Ravens winning that game, actually, unfortunately. Because I don't know if they're going to win against the Bengals.
They got to beat the Bengals.
They do.
That has to happen.
If they lose, that the season's probably over.
I believe I'll pick them that week.
It's in Cincinnati, though, is the issue. It's the only game that's not at home the rest of the season.
It's coverage of March Chase.
Yeah, see, the Cardinals have the Lions, the Colts, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks. So that's already 1 automatic win. And
See,
then
the Seahawks again it's just going to be just as stupid. I feel like, and then Colts and Cowboys are actual tough games for them. I feel like.
yeah, but the Lions is an automatic win, so you already have the 11th win there, and I'm pretty sure the Rams cannot have the tiebreaker. Like, the Rams need the Cardinals to lose to the Seahawks. The Rams need to beat the Seahawks and the 49ers, and then they need to hope that whatever the other tiebreaker is, which is probably conference record at that point, goes their way. Because they already lost to the Cardinals once. It's not. I'm not saying it's not. It's impossible, right? Because if the Cardinals lose, 2 of those games and the Rams win all 4 of their games, they're the division champion. But that's a lot harder than I think than going, 2-2.
Also, just FYI, the Rams just put 6 guys on the COVID.
Yeah, Odell Beckham already ruining the locker room, getting everybody sick.
Did see that. That's.
Come on, Ian.
Can't believe Odell brought COVID to the Rams locker room.
Come on, don't get this recorded. No.
The other,
I do hope that's. I do kind of hope that's 4-5 though, because I just want to see them play again.
the tough part about, I'm looking at the Rams schedule now. Actually, the tough part about this, despite the fact that they have to play 2 divisional games, is the Vikings are going to be fighting tooth and nail for a playoff spot. The Ravens are going to be fighting tooth and nail for a playoff spot, and the 49ers are going to be fighting for a playoff spot. Like, the thing you might get with, I'm sure the Cowboys are still playing for seeding. They're going to play the Cardinals tough, but it's a little... That game, the Cowboys will probably have already clinched the division at that point. So, you know.
You don't want that 4 spot.
No, you don't. I just think there's not as much desperation there. It's like, I want to get seeding is a little bit of a different feeling than we're going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to win the next 2
games. Colts are going to be fighting though. So.
Yeah, the Colts game will. Hopefully, the Cardinals can win that game for me. As long as everybody just keeps losing, the Ravens won't drop out of the playoffs yet.
True.
Moving on to picks for this upcoming week 15 of the NFL season. Carter had a pretty good week last week. I believe you went 13-1.
Yes, sir.
Yeesh.
Massive week.
What was the one?
The Steelers. So we are close to the perfect week.
Well, starting off on Thursday night, we've already kind of talked about this game a little bit. But the Chiefs and the Chargers. Chiefs look like an unstoppable death weapon now again, so I'm taking the Chiefs.
Me too. Game should be really fun, though. At least I hope it is.
I will take the Chargers.
Ooh.
The game's in Los Angeles, but what does that even really mean?
Yep, that means nothing.
Like, it means it's not... It's like, instead of it being like 3 points to the Chiefs, it's just 0 points to anybody.
Kansas City, Arrowhead is pretty nutty, though.
Yeah,
so.
but instead of the huge home field advantage, it's just no advantage to anybody. It's basically a neutral site.
Pretty much.
Raiders at Cleveland, basically a elimination game for these teams. More so for the Raiders because the Browns still have this teetering divisional chance here. Particularly if everybody loses again. I'm taking the Raiders solely because I need them to win this game. I really need the Browns to lose. Go Raiders, baby.
I want to take the Raiders just because of my everybody's 8-8 dream, but as we all know, the Raiders are dead, so Cleveland is going to win that game.
I will take the Raiders. Darren Waller comes back this week and carries the Raiders to a win.
If the Raiders lose to a man with one arm, they maybe they deserve to be dead.
One arm and like half a leg.
He was like running for first downs in the first half of that game yesterday or Sunday, and I was like, how? I don't understand. And the late game on Saturday, somehow it's 2021, and this is still a marquee game. Patriots at Colts.
I love that Saturday football's back. I'm very excited to waste another day watching football. This is a tough one. Actually, Emmanuel, you have a take yet? Let me think for a sec.
I will take Indy at home. Indy runs the ball a ton, forces the Patriots to play from behind, and Mac Jones to throw, and he'll make a couple mistakes.
Analytically, I feel like the Colts are the pick here because I think they have enough of an offense here that can kind of thwart what New England likes to do. But every single time I think about taking the Colts in this game, Bill Belichick reminds me that he's going to be playing against Carson Wentz. And so I'm going to take the New England Patriots. They continue their winning streak and continue to basically clinch that division at this point.
I think I'm going to take the Patriots. I hope it's a close game, but I could definitely see if they can't get the running game going, Carson Wentz is going to have to do what he did against Tampa, but I don't see it happening against Patriots defense.
It's a weird.
He lost that game too, so even if he does,
it's a weird game because the Colts are really good at stopping the run. For the most part, they've done that to the Ravens the last 2 years, even though the Ravens have somehow won both of those games. So I really could see a situation where New England just can't run the ball and Mac Jones has to, wing it around. And
is that okay? It's in Indy.
I
was gonna say I want more Mac Jones cold takes. Mac Jones is cold. Can't throw in the cold.
Just
he's allergic to the cold.
Just feels like a close game that'll come down to some turnovers. So I'm gonna lean the Patriots because of that.
What you're saying is Mac's gonna have to throw more than 3 times this game.
I just think this game's gonna be like 13-10. Like both of these defenses are really good.
I can see it.
So
yeah, that sounds about right.
Who makes the? That's the thing, right? That's the thing I keep thinking about. Who's gonna make the fewer mistakes? And I think that's Mac Jones because they're not gonna let him make mistakes.
Nick Folk's been a gamer this year too, and the Colts have had some kicker problems.
Like Carson's gonna be chucking the ball around, and suddenly he's gonna be throwing 2 picks to J.C. Jackson.
He's gonna pass it to his left hand and throw a pick.
God. Yeah, we got a couple. Oh my God, we got 4 games here in a row that are pretty much one-sided, so we can burn through these pretty quickly. Carolina at Buffalo. Buffalo is reeling, but Carolina's reeling harder. I'm taking the Bills.
Buffalo.
Yeah, the Bills. Carolina's a mess right now.
As much as I would love the Panthers to win that game, because again, I need every single AFC team to lose at this point in my life, but the Bills are gonna win. Cardinals at Detroit. I think this is just a 31-7 chill. Kyler doesn't even play in the fourth quarter game.
Yep.
Cardinals. Sounds all right. Cardinals.
Jets at the Dolphins. The Dolphins' defense has looked mighty good the last few weeks, and I think Zach Wilson has another bad game.
I will take the Dolphins.
Give me the Dolphins.
And finally, Dallas at New York. Game could get a little weird. I could see Dallas losing this game, but it doesn't mean I'm not picking them.
I will take the Cowboys.
I will take the Cowboys, and hopefully Dak looks better for my fantasy team going the rest of the way.
Amari Cooper, playoffs this week. I need Amari Cooper to play well. Washington at Philadelphia, our first 12 o'clock game that's actually worth anything. Man, oh my God, there are 2 12 o'clock games that are good. Or 1 o'clock games, I guess, if you're on the East Coast. This is one of them. Dallas at New York. Oh, sorry, not Dallas, New York. Washington at Philadelphia, as I said. I'm going to take the Eagles. I think, because it's in Philadelphia, Hurts hopefully is back. No longer, I think they announced that he's going to play this week, so I'm leaning Eagles, but this is really a toss-up. This is a 50-50 game, I think.
Yeah, I'm going with the same line of thought. I'm just taking the home team, Eagles.
Yeah, I'll take the Eagles. I figure coming off the bye, they're at least a little healthier.
Titans at Pittsburgh. This feels like a game where you're supposed to go, oh yeah, the Titans are going to win this game. Whatever. And that might happen. But I'm going to take the Steelers because this just feels like a game where the Steelers win this game and they keep hanging around, keep hanging around, keep hanging around until the tie gets them into the playoffs.
I'm right with you. This feels like stupid Steelers win, especially with the Titans not being like fully healthy. So I'm gonna take the Steelers.
Unfortunately, I have to agree, and I will take the Steelers
We're
because
all
this
on the
feels
Steelers.
Wow.
very stupid type of Steelers game where Tennessee can't get any offense going because they have guys you don't even know about running the ball, and
Mike
Have
Tomlin's never had a season under 500.
yeah, I hear that every week.
And our last noon kickoff game, Houston at Jacksonville.
Oh boy.
My goodness. I'm taking the Texans because I've seen more from the Texans this season that makes me think they're a actual NFL football team, and I just think the Urban Meyer train continues to derail.
This game is not worth picking. I will take Houston.
Oh man. Damn. I want to take Jacksonville just for the bit, just to get some laughs out of it. No, I will take Houston and Davis the Neck Mills.
So there are 4 teams that are currently eliminated from playoff contention in the National Football League, and all 4 of them are playing in the 12 o'clock slate on Sunday.
That's about right.
Oh my God, 2 of them are playing each other. My
Gonna be big fantasy hours.
goodness. Yeah, first fantasy playoff week of the season. Next, okay. Now the 3 o'clock slate has a lot of better games. Bengals at Denver. We said this might be the best game of the week, and I think I stand by that. I think New England. I think the Saturday games are actually the best games this week, at least in terms of I think they're going to be close. But Denver Cincinnati will be a very good game. It's in Denver. It's a tough place to play. I think Denver's finally started to figure out their running game situation. They finally let Javonte run the ball more than once a game. And, it's going to come down to basically if Jamar Chase can do that thing where he scores miraculous touchdowns or they don't. That's, I think, the difference in the game, really. I'm taking the Broncos. Sorry, I didn't actually say who I was taking, but I'm taking the Broncos.
Yeah, I think this is the best game, even more than the Saturday games, just because there's so much on the line for these 2 teams. The Broncos have been kind of hot, and the Bengals have been kind of cold, and I think I'm going to go with the mentality that the Bengals are due for a win, and the Broncos are due for a loss. So I'm going to take the Bengals.
I will take Denver. Denver's pass is very good. They won't let Jamar Chase get behind him for a 80-yard touchdown, hopefully, this week.
That's what you think. Please, Denver, win this game, and Las Vegas win. That's all I want. I want another week of losing and still being in first place. Let me hold on to this as long as I possibly can. A surprisingly important game that I alluded to earlier, Atlanta at San Francisco. This is kind of a playoff game almost. I mean, the 49ers, they can lose, they'll still be in the playoffs, but if Atlanta wins this game, suddenly they're in a pretty good spot. With 7-7, they'd have a tiebreaker over the 49ers. They'd be looking pretty good for the playoffs. I'm going to take the 49ers, though, because I don't think the Falcons are that good.
The 49ers have lost a decent number of games at home. I think I'm going to take the Falcons just for the wild upset pick. I just worry that their defense isn't going to be able to stop the run, but I could see their offense, putting something together for 1 week. Just 1 week where Kyle Pitts and Cordarrelle and Matt Ryan and their other running back was Mike Davis. Are just feeling themselves, and the 49ers slip up. So, take the upset pick.
I will take San Francisco at home, although I do think that line's kind of big. Here's what's going to happen, right? George Kittle runs the tight end during the offseason. He's gonna call over a cop. It's like, hey buddy, how you doing, young blood? This is how it's done, and they win.
Yeah.
See, the issue is even if George Kittle was open, Jimmy G has to hit him with the ball.
Which he's done the last 2 weeks, surprisingly.
He's so big.
He's got like 20-something receptions in the last 2 games.
The biggest play of that game, until it wasn't because Robbie Gould missed that field goal, was Jimmy just like saying, hey, just catch this. Just catch this, George. And George going up full extension and catching it.
What a monster.
Seattle at Los Angeles. Man. The Rams looked good last night. I think I'm gonna take the Rams, but I don't feel confident enough in the Seattle Seahawks to take the Seattle Seahawks. But this is a game where, again, wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks won, but I'm taking the Rams to win, unless all those guys can't play this week. Then maybe we have to have a different discussion about this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Rams.
They
They beat the Cardinals without people. They can beat the Seahawks without people.
I will take the Rams because the Seattle defense is terrible. Davis Mills threw for like 350 yards on them this past week.
Well, a better quarterback than the Rams have.
Oh God, here we go.
Okay, well, the game of the week for the podcast, at least. Green Bay at Baltimore. I'm taking the Ravens. The Ravens are winning this game. I don't care how it's happening. The Ravens are winning this game. That's why I've decided. Ravens are winning this game.
The Packers are going to win this game.
God.
What does our neutral observer think?
Do I have to pick this game? What's the line? It is Green Bay -4.5.
If Green Bay isn't favored, I don't know what the line makers are doing.
I'm seeing anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5. I will take Green Bay, just because there's just so many question marks in Baltimore right now with Greg Roman, our favorite name on the podcast.
Lamar's gonna knock Greg Roman unconscious before the game, and he's gonna throw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. Maybe if he doesn't get sacked 8 times, they'll win. Who knows?
I wonder if we can get any of our boys back before this game. Still waiting on Jair Z and Bakhtiari.
I would argue you should keep them out an extra week, personally. But
Probably bigger.
Seems like we're just gonna hold them until the playoffs at this point, but
It's feeling like it.
I've decided to become a normie sports fan. I'm just going to think that my team's going to win every week. It's much easier
Nice.
that way.
I like to see the
that's what
positive.
you gotta
They're
do.
going to win. They're going to win this week.
Pretty much how I feel about my team.
They're
See,
going
no,
to win this week, and then they're going to win next week, and they're going to the division.
I wish I could do that, but then again, I'm a Jets fan.
I'm just gonna believe they're gonna win until that first drive where Greg calls 3 runs into the line for no gain and they punt. It'll be fun.
But the punt is muffed,
There you go.
and you score a touchdown.
I can see it right now. Greg calls 3 runs directly at Dean Lowry.
If the Ravens don't turn the ball over, they might win this game, realistically. But
That's how it works in Green Bay. We win with turnovers.
I don't know, man. I don't remember the last time they didn't turn the ball over.
It's been a while.
Oh God, when was the last game? Like the fucking Chargers game might have been the last time they didn't turn the ball over. They turned the ball over this week. They turned the ball over against the Steelers. Turned the ball over against the Browns the first time, certainly. Turned the ball over against the Bears, I think. I don't actually remember. I know he turned the ball over against the Dolphins. I know he threw 2 picks against the Vikings. Threw a pick against the Bengals. I think he threw a pick against the Chargers too.
Oof.
I think it was the Colts game. No, because he fumbled in the Colts game.
He fumbled and they
Yeah, they
called back.
Fumbled in the goal line.
Yeah, they called back that touchdown.
The Broncos game then? Was October 3rd the last time they didn't turn the ball over? Yeah, they didn't turn the ball over in the Broncos game.
Nice. It's been a minute.
They were that was the 4th game of the season. Oh my God. I didn't even realize that. This is me reacting to this honestly.
Also, as the non biased party here, since I'm not a Ravens fan, can I just have a moment for the schedule makers? What the hell are you thinking? What were you thinking? You basically gave the Browns 3 weeks to prepare for one team. What? Why?
And they scored a total of 27 offensive points in
The
2
amount of
games.
stuff that they had stacked against them in this game, and they only lost by 2, and they should have won.
The
It's
Browns
just mind-boggling.
averaged 13.5 points against the Ravens, the offensive points against the Ravens this season.
Schedule makers, what were you guys thinking? What were you guys
They
smoking?
screwed over the Steelers, too. They made the Steelers play the Ravens and then play a game on Thursday night. Like,
So sad.
it makes no sense. Anyway, they're beating the Packers and they're beating the Bengals, and then they're going to beat the Rams and clinch the division.
I believe.
Save the season. The more realistic scenario, I think, is you lose this week and you beat the Bengals and the Rams, but it's more fun to beat the Packers, so let's do that instead. Well, actually, the real realistic situation is you lose the next 2 games and then you win the last 2 games, but like miss the playoffs because of a tiebreaker or something. I don't know.
Beat the Bengals, beat the Steelers.
That is the scenario. You need to beat the Bengals, beat the Steelers, and hope the Browns lose a game at some point, which they hopefully will. Who do they play?
The Bengals.
That's the last week of the season, though. So, they play the Packers next week.
I will be at that game.
Gonna need, bro. If the Packers win this week and lose to the Browns, I'm disbanding the podcast, and you'll never hear from me again.
I have a stat for you, okay? When I am at Lambeau Field and the Packers are in playoff contention, the Packers are 5-0, outscoring their opponents 177-76.
Nice.
So,
Got hope.
count that one as a loss for the Browns.
So, when everything happens the way we need it to this week, the Packers will beat the Browns, and then the Ravens will win against the Bengals and they'll clinch the division.
Yep.
And it'll be great. Everything will be wonderful. And then they'll lose in the playoffs, but I don't care anymore. I just want to make the playoffs. We have a couple more games, I think. I got distracted.
The 2 night games.
New Orleans at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay all the way. Although New Orleans does give Tom fits sometimes, and he's going to get sleepy. But I just don't see how New Orleans scores enough points against Tampa to make this competitive.
Right.
I'm going to take the Saints because fuck it. That's why.
Because you want the Bucks to lose so the Packers have better seeding.
We don't even need the Bucks to lose if we're winning out. We're going to win out, so we already have the 1 seed.
I will take Tampa Bay, even though, for whatever reason, Tom hates playing the Saints.
Maybe New Orleans will win this game because after the Packers lose, we want to be generous to the Packer fans and still give them the 1 seed. So
You know what they should
The
do
Cardinals will have it.
is they lost to what, a combination of Jameis and Trevor last time. They should probably just start Trevor.
he's the better quarterback.
Here we go.
You know how the Ravens are going to lose this game? It's not going to be like 35-7 or something where Rodgers just throws the ball over the field. It's going to be in some sort of like hell dimension where they get everything they need and then they lose like 25-22.
We're going to go down early for sure.
It's going to be like, oh, well, I figured it out. It's 14-0 Ravens. Oh, they figured out everything.
And then Aaron Rodgers and
Aaron Rodgers is going to get hurt and Jordan Love's going to come in and throw for 3 touchdowns.
Aaron Rodgers and his 9 toes.
I'll never recover from the fact that they recovered an onside kick and lost. Like, why did you do that to me? Minnesota at Chicago.
Okay, move on.
Wasn't the stat that was like their first one since 2001?
Yeah, their first recovered onside kick
Wow.
since 2001 against the Packers. Good vibes. Winning this week.
They were offsides on that onside kick anyway, so it's fine. football don't lie.
Minnesota at Chicago. I almost said the Rams. The Vikings are going to win this game. I think. I don't know, man. It's every Viking. The Vikings should win this game. That's why I'm picking them. But could I see them losing this game? Absolutely.
I'm going to go full chaos this week and pick the Bears. I just think it's going to be one of those weeks.
I will take Minnesota. They should win this game. Now, will they? They'll probably win by like 2 points because they are the Vikings and love to do stupid shit and let teams back in games.
Mike Zimmer going to
And
be
his
fired.
model girlfriend could just ride off into the sunset in the offseason.
2022 Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike
Oh,
Zimmer.
God. Oh, no.
Who needs a defensive coordinator? Anybody need a defensive coordinator? Not one that I can think of off the top. Not like a good team that I can think of off the top of my head.
Is Wink back in your good graces?
I mean, no, but they've looked pretty good since the bye, and they held. I granted it was one-armed Larry over here playing quarterback, but they held them to 0 points in the second half, and he's like, it's like Chris Westry, Anthony Averett, and like some dude named Robert Seymour playing cornerback. So like I can't really get too mad at the defense if they're giving up 0 points and a half.
What's the Chargers defensive coordinator situation? Brandon Staley do defensive stuff too? I don't know.
Let's see.
He probably has a lot of say since he was the defensive.
He was, yeah.
Was he?
I can never. He was the DC on the Rams last year.
Ronaldo Hill is their defensive coordinator.
They have not looked very good on defense. So.
Off the top of my head, the Raiders, because they're gonna clean house.
Yeah, the Raiders maybe.
Who else? Carolina, because there's a good chance the way shit's going, Matt Rule might be gone.
Oh. We love the Panthers defense.
I don't think that the Chargers will fire their defensive coordinator after one season.
Jacksonville, because that's.
I didn't know if he was like new or.
He came in with Brandon Staley.
Okay.
Yeah, Jacksonville's a mess, so maybe Jacksonville. Atlanta. Atlanta defense is bad. They need help.
Just let Mike coach the Jags. Just let him be the head coach of the Jags.
That would be an upgrade over this mess.
The Falcons defensive coordinator? That's right. Dean Pease.
Oh, I remember Dean, yes.
Dean Pease, the guy who, quote-unquote, retired from the Ravens, only to immediately get hired by the Titans a week later. I think he was asked to leave, and they didn't want to fire him.
Sounds about right.
I don't know, man. We got 4 weeks left. It's the final sprint for the finish. I don't feel very good about my professional football team. The Jets are eliminated, and the Packers are probably going to be the 1 seed. So, we have a whole slew of opportunities to be disappointed the rest of this season.
In the playoffs, we can all just root for the Packers then.
I'm kind of like craving the sweet release of death at this point. I'm like, man, once they're eliminated, I can just watch these games and not really care.
Yes. Welcome to my life, Ian. Welcome
Watching
to my
the
life.
AFC Chaos from my NFC throne has been wonderful.
Why do you think I was so obsessed with the draft last season?
Like the football gods are like, no. Everyone's going to keep losing, so you're still going to be in first place. You're going to have to continue to care about this.
It's actually insane that there are only 4 teams like officially eliminated. That's actually insane.
Not even. It's 3 eliminated.
Isn't there one NFC?
It's the Lions. I thought you meant in the AFC. There's only 4 teams eliminated, but I think. Well, no, because the last NFC spot is 6 and 7 right now. So even if the Bears lose, they're still mathematically in it. Technically, but
just wait till they win.
Oh no, the chaos.
And the Falcons win.
the chaos. Just Carter's gonna be throwing the gif of Elmo Fire in the chat.
The real chaos is if the Panthers beat the Bills and the Giants beat the Cowboys, and things get weird.
As I said, I am concerned about the Cowboys' offense, so anything's possible.
The Lions have 9 defensive backs currently unavailable to play.
I didn't even have 9 defensive backs on the team.
6 have COVID and 3 are on
I
IR.
was just gonna say, are 3 of them from the practice squad?
My God.
Like, all their starters were injured already. They had their number 3 pick hurt, then the guy from this year they drafted hurt.
Okuda, Parker, and Jerry Jacobs all on IR.
Well, we're going to do one last thing here, real quick. With
no.
4 weeks to go, I want your 7 playoff teams in each conference. Carter, you can start because you've already done this in our group chat.
Let me pull it up real quick.
My man didn't know it off the top of his head.
Well, the Packers, the Cowboys, the Buccaneers, and the Rams are your division winners. Packers, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Rams in that order. 5, 6, 7, Cardinals, 49ers, Washington football team. And in the AFC, Kansas City 1 seed, they're back. Tennessee 2 seed. Buffalo 3 seed. They're gonna get things turned around. Baltimore wins the division because everyone is losing, even them, at 10-7. 5 is the Chargers, who have a better record than the Ravens, and they play each other in that first round. Should be a good one. Colts at the 6, Patriots at the 7.
For me, I agree. Actually, I don't agree. Never mind. Sorry. I was going to say I agree with your NFC, but I don't. I would go Packers, Bucks, Cardinals, Cowboys. I think it ends exactly the way it's sitting right now. There's a chance the Buccaneers hop the Packers. That could happen, particularly after the Packers lose this week. But I think it's going to be those 4 teams winning the divisions, and then the Rams and the 49ers is the 5 and the 6. And then I'm going to put the Minnesota Vikings in at 7 solely because I want a playoff game that features the Minnesota Vikings. That's the only reason I'm putting them in there. In the AFC, man, I'm going to go, I think the Chiefs are the 1 seed. I agree with you there. I don't think they're going to lose again in the regular season. And then I'm going to put the Patriots at the 2 and the Titans at the 3. Titans looking pretty not threatening, but they would have to really, really collapse to not win that division at this point. Actually, let me see if I want to pick that. Let me look at those 2 schedules. I don't think so because the Colts play like the Patriots and stuff. Colts play the Patriots and the Cardinals. Titans play Steelers, 49ers, Dolphins, Texans. I mean, they could lose a lot of those games. But I just think there's just no way. The Colts would have to win out, basically, because the Titans have that tiebreaker because they beat them twice. So the Titans basically have a 3-game lead with 4 to go. So, yeah, the Titans at the 3. And then, man, I'm going to put the Ravens at the 4. My brain tells me to put the Bengals at the 4, but my heart tells me to put the Ravens at the 4, so we're going to do that. I'm going to put the Colts at the 5, actually, and the Chargers at the 6. And then the Bengals at the 7. I think the Bills just kind of collapse out of the playoffs here. Actually,
Really?
Not the Bengals. I'm going to put the Broncos. Put the Broncos at the 7.
Even with those Panthers, Falcons, and Jets games for the Bills.
We'll see what happens this week. There's a decent chance that they win all those games because those are all bad teams, I guess. But I don't know. What do the Broncos got coming down the pipe?
They have all playoff contenders teams.
Bengals, Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs. That Chiefs game is going to be tough at the end of the season. But maybe the Chiefs are resting their starters because it's the last week of the season. I like that. I'm gonna be fun. I'm gonna put the Broncos in the playoffs. Let's just do that. The Bills are probably the smarter pick, and I realized I can't put the Bengals there because if the Bengals are there, that probably means the Ravens are not on the playoffs. So we're gonna You're
Yeah.
gonna just do that and be done with it. What do you think, E-Man?
I kind of like a mix of your two. I'd probably NFC Packers, Bucks, Cardinals because they already got the wins. They're gonna hold on. Cowboys hold on. 5 Rams because I think they'll be fine. And then I'm gonna say 49ers. Yeah, I kind of, yeah. And then I think one of the two NFC teams sneaks into the 7, whether it's Washington or Philly. I'm just gonna go on a wild, random blank shot here and pick Philly.
That's fair.
And then AFC. I think the Chiefs. Listen, I'm not convinced they're back yet offensively. Like I'm not. Like they didn't really have to do much on offense that game. The Raiders had 5 turnovers in that game. But their defense looks great right now, despite the fact that the Raiders are a disaster. The Chiefs defense does look great. So I'll put Chiefs. I'll put Pats. Titans 3. Ravens 4. Yes, Ian, the Ravens will hold on. Don't worry.
I'm very worried.
Chargers. Wait, actually no. I'd have to put the Bills up above. So I'd put Bills, Chargers, and then Colts. Maybe Colts. Yeah, Colts.
The Colts do look good. I honestly want to pick them to take the division. It's just impossible, because they lost those two. If Carson hadn't thrown that left-handed interception at the goal line, they would be 8-5 and probably have a chance to win the division. But
So we all have the Ravens at the 4 seed.
We do.
We all have Kansas City at the 1 seed.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing though, Ian.
I don't know, man. At this point, I'm just gonna hope that they win the next 2 games. It is what it is. When we're recording in 2 weeks and they just lost, they just ruined my Christmas by losing to the Bengals. And,
We all have San Fran at the 6 seed.
that one I wanted to discuss because I feel like there's a good chance they could drop out.
San Fran.
Yeah, I mean they're only a game up, and see that maybe you beat the Titans, maybe you don't. So if they lose this week to the Falcons, they're in dire trouble.
It really is about that chaos game because they have what should be a free win against the Texans.
And because they're already a game up, if you beat the Falcons and the Texans, 9 wins is probably enough to make one of those 2 spots.
Because they have the tiebreaker on Minnesota.
And again, a reminder that Rams game was a free win because Sean McVay cannot beat Kyle Shanahan. So
I believe, and then Kyle pulling it out, changing the narrative.
Changing the narrative that he's beaten him once out of 6 tries.
AKA Kyle's bizarre adventure, or Ian believes Kyle's not a good coach.
I don't. Did you watch his team almost blow a lead for the 800th time against the Bengals? I think he's a good offensive coach. I don't think he's a good coach. Carter, you have any soccer you want to plug here?
Yeah, the Champions League draw is done. The MLS Cup, I'll just touch on that real quick since I mentioned it last week. It was very boring for 93 minutes, and then it just got insane. So, I mean, the ending of soccer games are always the best part anyway, but that was a fun one to watch at the end. Champions League, PSG plays Real Madrid, which should be a good game. Man U plays Atletico Madrid, which should be a good game. That was, as a PSG fan myself, that was the draw I was looking for. So I'm excited for February to watch all those.
I'm excited to lose to Atletico and not have to care anymore. Well, that's it for us this week. We'll talk to you guys again next week when the Ravens have beaten the Packers and have solidified their spot in the AFC North. Until then, I've been Ian with Carter and Emmanuel, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube. And thank you again for listening to our very intelligent and always correct takes on this podcast. So,
13-1, baby.
See you next week.